Hey everyone, in this video we'll be taking a look at how we can render to-do list items in our React application. So we'll be going ahead and creating a React component and we'll be rendering that in our application, and let's get started. What we're going to do next is to actually display some of our to-do list tasks. So to do that, I don't want to do everything in the same component. So let's actually create a new folder. We call that components, and we create a new component called todolist.js. Right, this is going to be a sub component, a React component that will just show what are the tasks there are in our to-do list. So let's go ahead and we say export default function to-do list, and this is a JavaScript function, but because it's capitalized, so this will be a React component. So we return something, and for now we can just return like a div and just says to-do list, right? So once we have done this, we need to use this component in our app.js. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, it really helps because it will auto-complete for you. So I'm going to just key in 2, and then you see the first element that's suggesting is already what we have just created, and I put a slash and a closing bracket, right? So once this is done, we can see that it is showing up, but it's really small, and it's really contrasting with the background. Let's not worry too much about styling right now. Let's go ahead and add some logic. So in our to-do list component, I want to keep track of all the tasks that we have. So to do that, I'm going to actually define, so let's say to define a few tasks. So I'm going to call this to-dos, and I'm going to call this set to-dos and use state, and for now it's going to be an array of empty objects. So it's declared but it's never not used, so don't worry about this this weird looking symbol here. And we have not imported use state. So firstly we need to import what is called use state from React. Okay, so what we are doing is that we need a state in React to keep track of the to-dos that we have in our to-do list, right? So basically what we are trying to do here is that we are using a functional components in React. So we are using actually very specifically React hooks. It's a very it's kind of new in React, but basically what you're saying is that declare a variable called to-dos, and this is actually maintaining the state of the to-dos in the little component called to-do list. And we have a set to-dos, and this is basically a function to update the to-dos. So you can't do things like for example say to-dos equals to X, then to-dos equals to Y. So that is not valid because you can't update a state like that in React. Instead use a dedicated function set to-dos, and then you put the new value for the to-dos there, right? So let's add a few sample tasks, right? So this is going to be an array of objects. So let's say the title of our to-do is to, let's say, buy groceries, and maybe let's add one more, right? So let's say the second one has a title of water the plants. So I have a to-do list and I have two different tasks, one with the title of buy groceries, one with water the plants, and now I'm going to try and display that here. So how do we display this, right? So in React what we do is that we use we really try to, we are able to iterate and go through the items, and then we are going to render HTML out of it, and it's going to be pretty straightforward, but let me show you how. So we're going to define a function. Let's say get to-dos to render. This is a function, and so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say to-dos.map, and I'm going to take the to-do and an index, and I'm going to say return. So this is going to be a div with a class. Let's give it a class name, right? So class name would be a to-do, and what we are going to put here is to-do.title. So try to follow along and let me explain really quickly. So what's happening? So we have to-dos and we're going to map. That means what map basically does is go through each of the items. So each item in the to-dos variable, and we are extracting out as a to-do. So each of this is a to-do and it gives the index. So this is at index 0, this is at index 1, and we are going to return a div which returns the title of the to-do, right? And we're going to say return. So once we do this, we can call this function here. So any JavaScript or any kind of logic, you enclose it within a curly bracket. So that's what I've done here. So without the curly bracket, we will not be able to render what is inside the object here. So we can take a look. So if we, let's not use the curly bracket first, but inside here, let's call the function get to-dos to render, and then not just this, but you also need to add the round brackets here to call the function. So now that we have done this and our app.js is actually rendering this component, we can go ahead and check that yep, it is rendering. And if you look closely, what it is rendering is todo.title and todo.title. All right, that's what I told you. If you're actually rendering some kind of object, or you're referencing something using some logic, then you need to enclose it within this curly bracket to tell React that hey, this is not just plain text, but you are actually doing some kind of logic here, right? Let's save, and now we see we have actually gotten out the different tasks here. I hope this React series is really useful to all of you, and do give me a thumbs up below and subscribe for more upcoming content. Catch you guys in the next video.